Joe Louis said this once, a man could run, but he can't hide.
Joe Louis, in his absolute prime, stands as arguably the greatest fighter to ever grace the ring. His ability to set up a dazzling variety of punches remains unmatched.
I thought you hit him with my left hook, Joe.
Well, man, I hit him with my right, too.
Many consider him the greatest offensive heavyweight in history, and it's hard to argue otherwise. No heavyweight could match his complete repertoire. Speed, technique, timing, accuracy, and raw power all came together in perfect harmony.
Cuz, what's this you are telling me about Joe Louis beating me?
Yes, I believe that Joe Louis would beat you, probably without point for the better part of the fight.
No.
But toward the end of that fight, he would catch up to you as he catches up to everyone else and take you out of there.
With any power shot, Joe could deliver a knockout. His instinct for knowing exactly where an opponent's chin would be was simply unparalleled. Every move seemed effortless, every punch precise, as if he had an innate map of his opponent's weaknesses. This video dives into Joe Louis at his very best.
Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, during one time during my career, I went on a Bum of the Month tour.
Bum of the month? I would have been a bum compared to you.
Well, you've been on the tour.
Joe Louis. Well, we've seen only a brief glimpse of the reason that he's inscribed in American history as the greatest champion of all time.
The magnificent Brown Bomber champion Joe Louis, perhaps the greatest heavyweight champion of all time.
Louis not wasting any time.
This fight took place just before Joe hit his prime. At this point, he was only about 8 months into his pro career.
Louis, the sharpshooter, that solid left jab.
Still, the knockout here is something special.
There's that right hand. Down goes Ramage. He's flat on his back.
The right hand to the body landed with devastating force, leaving no doubt it hurt. Then came the right hand upstairs. Ramage's legs buckled and gave out as he hit the canvas.
He's sitting up. He's checking the count with Kenworthy. Waiting for the full count. Now he's up. And Louis comes right after him. Lee Ramage in deep trouble. Down he goes with a solid left hook. And watch the towel come flying into the ring. There it is. The fight's over. Joe Louis has KO'd Lee Ramage.
The finish was absolutely beautiful. That left hook was pure art. Throughout Joe's career, one thing becomes crystal clear. He's got the death touch. With true two-fisted power, he could put any man out cold with a single punch.
Huge crowd here in Yankee Stadium, getting their first look at this highly touted Joe Louis. Joe Louis is the sensation of the boxing world. He's only 21 years old, been fighting professionally less than a year. He's had 22 fights and won them all 18 by knockouts. They call him the Brown Bomber. If he wins tonight, he'll be in line to meet Max Schmeling. The winner of that fight is expected to get a crack at Jimmy Braddock's crown.
Throwing a lazy jab at Joe was always a costly mistake. Joe followed it up with a perfect right hook, and Carnera hit the canvas.
Carnera's down. There's a right cross to the jaw. Up at the count of 4, he's badly hurt.
Carnera was a massive man, but size didn't matter when hit with that kind of power. Not long after, another right hand, less accurate but just as effective, sent Carnera to the ground again.
Another right cross. Again, Carnera hits the deck. Another count of 4. He's really rocky.
The final moment came with a flawless right hand, left hook combination that put Carnera down.
Down a third time. Carnera tells the referee he can't go on, it's all over.
Carnera decided to quit after taking such devastating punishment. Considering the bombs Joe was landing, it was a sensible choice.
Young Joe Louis lives up to his reputation as the Brown Bomber and establishes himself the outstanding contender for Jim Braddock's heavyweight crown.
Joe continued his quest for the heavyweight title against King Levinsky.
Even then, the word was out. This guy Louis is a killer. Stay away, stay away. Levinsky is scared to death. Never tossing an effective blow. The big palooka's down and bounces back, paralyzed with fright.
It was clear that Joe was planning on using Levinsky as a punch bag for as long as the fight lasted.
There he goes again. Pounded, clouted, hammered to the canvas with all the force that the colored boys command. Levinsky's a battered soul who probably wishes he'd have stood in bed.
absolutely vicious right hand there by Joe, and the fight should clearly be stopped at this point.
Levinsky, they come none too soon. Sitting on the ropes, he's had enough.
Joe shows great compassion to his opponent here because he could have added to his highlight reel with a brutal knockout here if he wanted to. Joe once described this fight as his best performance, and it's hard to argue with that. It was undeniably one of his greatest displays in the ring. His combinations, speed, power, and footwork were absolutely superb. Every aspect of his game came together seamlessly, creating a performance that felt almost flawless. Many have said that Joe looked like the perfect heavyweight in this fight, and it's a sentiment that's easy to agree with. Everything about his presence and execution was simply on another level.
Winner is Lewis.
This fight didn't last long. Joe clearly wanted a quick finish, and that's exactly what he delivered.
Lightning will put the gloves into the canvas. Rexall tries to rise, but stumbles back groggily before courageously getting to his feet. Lewis, who already had a reputation for never letting his man get away, moves in to finish it. He's got Retzlaff against the ropes. 5 devastating punches, and Retzlaff can no longer hold himself up. He goes down again.
It was yet another beautiful knockout by the Brown Bomber.
Retzlaff tries to rise, but he's unable to regain his feet, and the referee signals that it's all over. Lewis rushes over to help the fallen fighter to his corner. Joe Lewis wins a smashing one-round victory and takes another giant step for the heavyweight title. And you saw it on Knockout.
Charlie made the mistake of lunging forward, leaving an opening for Joe to land first with a crisp left hook. Charlie barely managed to get back to his feet before Joe went into full attack mode. A relentless series of punches, including a sharp body shot, sealed the deal and ended the fight. Joe's follow-up was nothing short of spectacular. Charlie looked completely overwhelmed.
Joe Lewis.
2 months after taking that tough loss to Max, Joe stepped back into the ring and delivered a solid performance. Jack absorbed some heavy body shots in this fight, but this was all about levels. Joe's signature left jab, followed by a crisp right cross, did the job, putting Jack down for the first time. When Jack got back up, Joe wasted no time. He was on him instantly, scoring a second knockdown with relentless precision. In the next round, a picture-perfect right cross sent Jack back to the canvas. Joe's punching technique is always a joy to watch. Every shot is delivered with brutal precision. The final uppercut was clean, and the referee made the right call to stop the fight. This performance showcased Joe's incredible punching versatility. The first knockdown came from a right cross, the second from a straight right, the third from a right hook, and the fourth from a right uppercut. The fight highlighted Joe's usual brutal power, paired with exceptional accuracy. It was a masterclass in heavyweight boxing. Al took a big gamble coming out so aggressively against Joe. He managed to land a decent left hook early on, but Joe quickly closed the gap, delivering two thunderous right crosses that sent Al crashing to the canvas. What followed was an old-fashioned beatdown. Joe dropped Al again with a beautifully executed short right that was as precise as it was powerful. Joe then showed his incredible athleticism, leaping in to land a devastating left hook while Al was still clinging to the rope with one hand. It was a brutal finish, leaving no doubt about the outcome. Al was never quite the same after this knockout, and watching the sheer force and precision of Joe's punches, it's easy to understand why. Joe was still chasing a title shot, but by this point, his fearsome reputation preceded him. Bob Pastor clearly had no interest in trading punches during this fight. He avoided committing to anything significant, and after taking a solid shot in the fourth round, he shifted into full-on survival mode, sticking to ultra-conservative tactics. Joe seemed uncharacteristically content to go the distance in this one. Every round went his way with ease, making it a straightforward and dominant victory. It might not have been his most electrifying performance, but it showcased just how far ahead he was in skill and control.
The challenger from Detroit, Joe Louis.
Joe challenged for the heavyweight title against Braddock, and the ferocity of his punches that night was something to behold. One of the highlights was how Joe stood in the pocket, calmly rolling with Braddock's wide swings, staying sharp and composed under pressure. The finishing combination in this fight has to rank among the greatest KO combos of all time. The left hand knocked Braddock's guard out of place, setting up Joe to drop the hammer with a devastating right. Simple, effective, and brutally precise. Joe would later reflect that the finishing right hand was one of the hardest punches he ever threw. It was a shot that cemented his dominance. Credit where it's due, Braddock went out on his shield, showing heart until the end. But on this night, Joe became the heavyweight king.
Recently crowned the new heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Louis.
Tommy Farr was a tough man, a fighter who knew how to endure. Joe hurt his hand during the fight and eased his way to a decision win.
Detroit, Michigan, famous brown bomber, weighing 200 pounds, wearing black trunks, the heavyweight champion, Joe Louis.
Joe's body attack in this fight was extremely impressive. Nathan Mann came after Joe hard in the first round, but charging at Joe came with a heavy price. Mann got caught by a massive left hook counter that made his right leg buckle. Joe didn't hesitate and immediately went on the attack. That left hook was textbook, beautiful and devastating. Joe landed more left hooks, particularly to the body, putting Mann in trouble. Narrowly saved by the bell, Mann managed to survive the first round. Joe was lethal if anyone dared to put him on the back foot. Mann decided to turn it into a war, but he came out worse every time. A stunning right hook landed, and it was clear Joe's two-fisted power was on full display. That right uppercut and left hook combo, a signature of Joe's, was utterly devastating. Mann was game, but when that final left hook landed, everyone in the arena knew it was over. Credit to Mann for his toughness, but he took a beating that night.
Rise again it does. 1938. Joe Louis, who meanwhile become heavyweight king by dethroning Braddock, again meets the man who conquered him. But this time Smelling faces a different Louis, a world champion at his feet. Cool, keen, and deadly.
We know Max was a crafty fighter who used the cross-arm defense at times. Joe was just a monster in this fight. He came well prepared for this rematch.
Ewan in a boxing blitzkrieg. Subtle. Louis lets them off the habit. The champ starts hitting his opponent with everything but the constraint. And if you ask Smelling right now, he'll probably tell you the brown bomber's walloping him with the sink as well.
What a right hand. Joe shows no mercy and pummels Max to the canvas. I think that this fight was all about the devastating right hand of Joe.
Knockout, and still a first round. In just 1 minute and 39 seconds, Joe Louis is Fletcher's most formidable foe. The brown bomber remains the monarch of all his amazing.
A routine KO win over John Henry Lewis followed.
His friend John Henry Lewis, the light heavyweight champion who was virtually blind in his left eye, lasted just 1 round. But the fight did have real significance. It was the first ever all-black heavyweight championship fight.
Joe's hands look incredibly fast in this fight, and he completely overwhelms Jack with his speed.
Now let's take a closer look at Joe Louis's combination and power punching in slow motion.
It looked like a man against a boy in there, and I think Jack realized he was completely outmatched.
Boxing, like his handlers, keep yelling at him to do. That right cross begins it. can stand up to Lewis and take that kind of punishment. New York Yankee Stadium. Heavyweight champion Joe Louis battles 2-ton Tony Galento in a 15-round bout. Galento promised his friends this scrap wouldn't go beyond 5 rounds. When Louis heard about it, he said, sure, but he'd be the one to end it with a knockout over Tony. Tony also said he'd murdered Joe, and he called him a bum.
The vicious punching of Joe was on display early in this fight. Tremendous shots here.
Right cross and left hook. What a power combination. Galento up at the count of 2. That was the first time Galento's been knocked down in all his 11 years in the ring. Hard left to the jaw by Galento. Louis up at the count of 2. This is a surprise.
It's not often you see the great Joe making a technical mistake in the ring. He did here. Joe is looking for his brutal left hook to the body, but notice how he drops his right hand as he throws it. It might have been complacency from Joe here. I don't think he saw much threat in Tony. That left to the body is a dangerous shot to throw as a lead punch.
The first time since winning the title that Joe hits the canvas.
Joe came out and put things right.
Galento completely helpless. Tony drops to his knees. He's in bad shape, and the referee stops the fight. It's all over.
Notice the impact of these punches in slow motion. You simply cannot survive Joe's combinations if he lands. The power in the punches just looks insane.
Joe Louis rings up his 7th straight win as heavyweight champion of the world.
Native son of Detroit, who proved himself to be a credit to his chosen profession and the race he represents, the current heavyweight king, Joe Louis.
This fight was scheduled for 20 rounds, but it felt like no one told Pastor. Pastor came out aggressively, surprising Joe and taking the fight to him. Joe quickly turned things around, showing his ability to adjust in an instant. He improvised beautifully, pulling his right hand a couple of times and waiting for the perfect moment. He found it, throwing a brilliant right hook over Pastor's left arm, dropping him to his knees. Pastor bounced off the canvas like a basketball. A slight shuffle and readjustment set up a brutal right cross to seal the fight. Vintage Joe.
Joe Louis, still the heavyweight champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, it really was a great fight. I think about the best fight I ever had, and I think Tucker was a great fighter. I think he'll go a long ways out of heavyweight.
Joe, did Bob hurt you at any time during the bout?
Well, I know that he hit me once in a while.
Were you at any time worried about your title?
Well, I'm always worried about a championship. I know that's a great thing to have and a great thing to fight for. So I'm always, sort of shy when I fight.
Do you think Bob Pastor put up as good a fight as any man against you since you won the title?
I think Bob Pastor put up just as great a fight as anybody I ever fought, and I think I will fight.
Thank you very much, Joe Louis, heavyweight champion of the world.
Thank you, Joe.
Joe said that this was his worst ever performance, and I can see why. Godoy's awkward, ridiculously low crouch and constant pressure seemed to confuse Joe throughout. Godoy didn't land much either, though. The highlights show a close fight that Joe edged. They would meet again soon, and the rematch would be far more conclusive. It was evident from the very beginning that Paycheck was intimidated by Joe.
Watching the great Brown Bomber in action. Tremendous right-hand punch.
As expected, it was Joe's signature left-right combination that sent Paycheck to the canvas for the first time. Things only went downhill from there.
There it is. A tremendous right cross. Paycheck can't get up again, and Arthur Donovan stops the fight. That's Ray Arcel ministering to him. And you'll see Johnny Paycheck topple over like a felled tree.
Paycheck was visibly shaken throughout the fight. This moment showcases classic Joe.
Wow, that's all. No doubt about it.
A perfectly executed double left jab, followed by a crushing right hand, sent Paycheck down hard. The impact was so devastating that when Paycheck hit the canvas, his entire body froze from the sheer force of the blow.
Another great...
Coming inside on the Brown Bomber is a very risky thing to do. Notice how Joe makes space for his compact inside punches. Joe gets criticized for his footwork at times, but he can move fast if he wants to. He only does what is absolutely necessary. I think he's just very economical with his footwork.
Referee Kavanaugh, but Godoy has other ideas.
The opponent has been punched so hard that I think he's actually gone insane here for a moment. He's just running on instinct. Meanwhile, the heavyweight king is just relaxed in his corner. Al McCoy took early punishment. Clubbed to the canvas with body shots. He got up, showing heart, but Joe delivered a relentless beatdown. By the 5th round, McCoy's eye was extremely swollen, and he retired in the corner.
Because of bad condition to McCoy's left eye, he refuses to continue, and Joe Louis, still heavyweight champion of the world. World champion, incompatible, Joe Louis.
A heavyweight champion is knocked out of the ring, this time by Buddy Baer.
Despite how shocking it looked, Joe didn't seem hurt after being knocked through the ropes. Joe was known for having a good chin and recovering almost instantly. The punishment for Baer began soon after and was severe. Baer tried to rally, pushing Joe onto the back foot. But Joe halted it with a sharp left hook and battered him to end the round. The next round saw Joe unleash a ferocious attack. He hit Bear so hard that Bear spun 180 degrees. A textbook right hand dropped Bear for the second time. Being hurt against Joe was a death sentence. A thunderous right hand in the center of the ring dropped Bear again. What followed was pure chaos. Bear in his corner refused to come out for the 7th round, claiming Joe hit after the bell.
The referee's decision. Quiet, please. The referee's decision disqualifies Bear. The winner, Lewis.
They were disqualified. Even with the DQ, it felt like a knockout. Bear had been lit up like a Christmas tree.
And to see a smaller man by some 25 pounds standing in front of Joe Louis there and trading, that really is something. Oh, lovely left hook again from Con. Sometimes getting the better of Joe Louis, and Lewis's legs have gone.
Joe looked shaken up a few times in his career, and this was definitely one of those moments. Con's big left hook buckled Joe's knees, and another one backed him into the ropes.
And Louis still hadn't recovered at this stage. That's another good uppercut. Well, Con all of a sudden looks quite weary out there.
Con was a true fighter. If you hit him, he'd come right back at you, but you just can't fight like that against Joe. Joe's devastating short hooks were on full display as he pounded Con to the canvas.
Quite some time. And getting through now with impunity here against Billy Con, and he's gone over. Billy Con on the floor in round 13. Has Joe Louis rescued victory from the jaws of defeat? And it's all over. Eddie Joseph has stopped it, so Joe Louis still the heavyweight champion of the world.
Honestly, I think Con was one of the rare fighters with hands faster than Joe's.
As you can see, they're very, very smart. Bit of work with the hands from Joe Louis, getting the elbow of Billy Con, spinning him around, and there's the right hand to put him over. A terrific finish.
Well, it was a great fight tonight. I know that Uncle Mike's going to give me another chance, and I know that I can win it. I guess I had too much to win for tonight, and I tried to knock him out. Otherwise, I'd have won easy.
Heavyweight King, Joe Louis.
The rematch with Buddy Bear was electric. Joe was at the peak of his career. He defended his title for the 21st time, symbolizing dominance and American strength during the turbulent lead-up to World War II. Joe was unstoppable. A body head combo put Bear down, and the rest of the fight became painful to watch. His combinations were masterful, with uppercuts woven seamlessly into his attack. Bear was overwhelmed and completely outclassed. Once again, Bear was lit up like a Christmas tree. There were no complaints from Bears camp after such a destruction.
Fighter, he can take it very good. I thought it was stay down the second time I knocked him down, but he very again and got right back up. But I'm very happy to do my part for the U.S. Navy.
This fight didn't look like a boxing match. It was more like watching a demolition crew at work. Joe was a master of blending elegance with sheer brutality. When it came to power, Joe had it in both hands, and he wasn't shy about showing it off. Joe slips jabs effortlessly, then generates explosive power using his legs and trunk like he's drawing strength from the core of the earth itself.
Now we'll see what makes Joe...
In this fight, Joe comes out stalking Simon like a cat with a serious mouse problem, and this cat isn't here to play. Size doesn't matter here. Joe might be smaller, but he's the one packing more firepower. This is a brutal beatdown. Every punch feels like a masterpiece in motion. It doesn't take long before Simon's staggering around like a Saturday night drunk. The impact of Joe's punches is impossible to ignore. Every punch seems to carry a message. You should have stayed home today, buddy.
Another terrific right. Simon goes down.
Notice how Joe's counterpunching skills are razor sharp. Watch how he punishes Simon for every single mistake. Great fighters always punish their opponents for mistakes. You can see shades of other explosive heavyweights in his technique, but Joe was really the original and everyone else is just trying to catch up. As the fight goes on, Joe unleashes a blistering attack, turning Simon into little more than a human punching bag. He's most dangerous when he's up close, where he can let those ferocious combinations fly.
Fighting man. He's throwing dynamite.
In my opinion, Joe is the greatest finisher in boxing history. When he has his opponent hurt, it's usually game over, and not the kind where you get a second chance. By the end of this fight, Simon was beaten from pillar to post. It's almost hard to watch. Joe may have been a polite, softly spoken man outside the ring, but once the bell rang, he became the most terrifying figure in boxing. Simon might have complained, but let's be honest, after the beating he took, he probably didn't even know what day it was, let alone have the energy to file a complaint. Joe had a 4-year layoff due to his military service during World War II. The phrase, "he can run, but he can't hide," originated from this fight. Joe made it clear he was going to find Khan and knock him out, and he delivered on that promise. Khan fought very defensively throughout the match, which drew heavy criticism for his approach. The combination that ended it was brutal. A crushing right uppercut followed by a devastating left hook. It remains one of the most vicious knockouts of Joe's career.
Champion takes on the #1 ranking challenger, Tammy, the champion who commands the respect of everyone in the world, the great Joe Louis.
Joe started fast in this one and put Tammy down quickly.
Crushing left by Joe Louis, and Muriello is down. What a beginning to this World Heavyweight Championship fight. Sharp punches by the champion. A crisp right to the jaw by Louis.
A massive right hand followed, crumpling Muriello to the canvas.
Right, a crisp left, and down goes Muriello for the second time. Tammy leaning on the second ring rope.
A few more punches for good measure ended the night.
In his dressing room, Joe accepts the warm congratulations of Governor Thomas E. Dewey. The magnificent brown bomber champion Joe Louis, perhaps the greatest heavyweight champion of all time.
After 15 months out of the ring, Joe returned to defend his title against Walcott. By this time, he wasn't in his prime. The full footage isn't available, leaving the fight shrouded in controversy.
Jab to the chin thrown by Lewis. He drives a right and a left to the head. Another right to the jaw by Lewis, and Lewis is down from a short right hand to the jaw. Referee Ruby Goldstein.
The highlights show Walcott landing clean counter rights, dropping Joe twice.
Jab, and Lewis is down for the second time in the fight. From the same punch, a sharp right hand to the jaw. He is taking the count from referee Goldstein. Lewis survived the knockdowns, and we're in the 9th round. Lewis on the offense.
However, Joe stayed aggressive throughout the fight, and the judges favored his forward pressure.
Shortens up, bangs his left and right to the body, misses the left at the jaw, takes a left hook on the mouth by Walcott.
It was close, but the decision went to the champion.
Lewis hooks that left on the chin again, another left to the jaw, and Walcott trades with him. Lewis has him against the ropes. Walcott a right to the jaw. Lewis both hands to the head.
And still the heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Louis.
Lewis is still champion, but Walcott's handlers do not believe it, and many of the crowd of about 17,000 don't believe it either.
Joe himself claimed he won because he made the fight while Walcott didn't engage.
When he called him back in the ring and he gave him the decision, the champ came over to me, which I considered a real privilege and a high honor for him to be so honest about the outcome. He grabbed me by both hands and he said to me, "I'm sorry, Joe," meaning to me that he was acknowledging then that he had lost the decision.
Joe Louis, when you went to the corner, and did you tell him that you were sorry?
I tell everybody that.
Yeah, I'm sorry I beat you.
Well, that's the more proper thing to say, I think, than anything else.
But you didn't.
But I really thought I wouldn't. I didn't have no idea that I had lost the fight. I really didn't, because.
Are you serious, Joe?
I really am serious. Yeah, I know.
You can't be.
The rematch was a star-studded affair.
Jack Benny and Bob Hope. Adolphe Menjou, impeccably attired as usual. Eddie Cantor. Joan Blondell and producer Mike Todd. And FBI Chief J. Edgar Hoover.
The internationally famous heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Louis.
The rematch with Walcott had no shortage of drama.
Short, tries a jab to the body, that doesn't get in there. Walcott jabs the left hand on the mouth of Lewis, who makes no return. Lewis coming in on Walcott. Walcott backing away. Walcott drives the right hand to the jaw, and Lewis is down. The third time that Lewis has been down in their 2 fights so far.
Walcott started strong, dropping Joe again with a counter right.
Walcott drives the right over the head of Lewis, and the champion holds on for a moment. We'll see how the champion is in a...
Well, I knew if Lewis put his left hand down, and if I kept thinking and pulling him in, I would eventually be able to get a right hand in, and which putting a right hand in, down he went. And then after he got up, he was the most luckiest guy ever in the world. He was just lucky enough to fall underneath the right hands I was throwing. I was too excited because I was trying to finish it then. He was just lucky enough to be, and weak enough to fall underneath the right hands grabbing me, and I was unable to finish him. But I had him at that point, but he got away.
Now let's see what the champ says. Did he have you then, Joe?
No, he didn't have me at all. I know what I was doing all the time.
That's right.
In the 11th round, Joe turned the tide. A clean right hand drove Walcott into the ropes, and Joe followed up with a brutal flurry of punches. Walcott went down and didn't beat the count. That final combination from Joe was one of his greatest. It secured his 25th title defense, a record that still stands.
How you feeling? Not very good right now, are you, Jersey Joe?
At the point until I got hit and got knocked down, I wasn't in no trouble at all. I felt good. I was in good shape until I finally got nailed. And I'd also like to say that once he ever got a fight in trouble, he very rarely escaped. He was the greatest heavyweight finisher, in my opinion, of all time.
Joe announced his retirement after this fight.
Being interviewed by his trainer, Manny Seaman.
When you knocked him down, did you think he'd get up?
No, man, I saw when I had him. I know when he went down, he couldn't get up. I hit him with 4 or 5 very good punches.
I thought you hit him with my left hook, Joe.
Well, man, I hit him with my right, too. Well, I'd like to say again that I retired. Tonight was my last fight. And thank you very much.
It's tragic how tax troubles plagued Joe later in life.
The income tax has also something to do with me coming back, too.
Yeah, we know that.
So it was a good payday.
During World War II, Joe donated entire purses from 2 title defenses to military relief funds.
Well, I'm not working for nothing. I'm working for my country, and I think that's about the greatest piece of work that anybody can do.
Well, I certainly agree with you for that, but you're turning over an awful lot of money.
Well, we all turn over a whole lot for this country at this time.
Unfortunately, there were no tax write-offs then, and he was taxed at over 81%. Penalties kept piling up, creating a snowball effect that ruined his finances. By the 1960s, Joe owed millions, despite his generosity. Those 2 months during the war effectively destroyed his financial future. In his later years, Joe would have to work at a casino as a host to make ends meet.
And I got to go back to the hospital on Wednesday. But other than that, I feel fine.
Didn't you disobey his orders by coming to work?
Well, I got so much call at home, and people say I'm died and that I'm so sick and everything, so I had to come out to prove that I'm feeling fine.
Do you enjoy your work?
I do. I enjoyed him very much.
How long have you been working here at Caesars as a greeter?
7 years.
7 years.
7
You seem
years.
to have a lot of the old fighting spirit in you, wouldn't you say?
No, I don't think so, but I enjoy working here. I got a lot of wonderful people come in.
It was a shameful thing to see a man like him, great fighter, great human being humiliated and destroyed in this manner.
And as he's in there, wandering across, the boys are saying, throw him out, throw him out. So the excitement, of course, is always attendant upon one of these great little pieces of side play, and, of course, there's the bow.
Joe Louis. Louis.
Joe came out of retirement to challenge Charles for the title. It was clear that Joe, now older and slower, didn't look like he wanted to be in the ring.
Well, there's a different Louis. He's not out to counterpunch, he's out to end it.
While both men landed good shots, Joe seemed a shadow of his former self. He just didn't look like a fighter who was enthusiastic about fighting.
His eyes went slightly glazy on that one, as if he were tired.
He looked like he would have rather been somewhere else.
Joe is tired against the ropes. He looks as if that eye is paining him, and it is. It's completely closed, has been for quite some time. But instinctively, Joe fights. Undeniably that. And there you saw the specter of Joe Louis, another of the men who might not be able to come back. Certainly in that round, Cincinnati Ezzard Charles took a good lead, a commanding lead.
Winner by unanimous decision and heavyweight champion of the world, Ezzard Charles.
Charles won decisively, and by then, Joe was a legend in name only. I thought Joe looked even worse in this fight, but he got the victory on cuts.
Johnny Weber looking now at the nose of Freddie Bayshaw. He doesn't like the looks of it. He's going to wait for the doctor's decision. The round will be suspended at this point. They're signaling over to the commissioner. The doctor is going to look. Time is suspended. The fight is not over. Only time is suspended. The crowd doesn't like it. And there it is. The fight is over. Joe Louis, the winner by a technical knockout. Listen to the crowd here at the Detroit Olympia.
The former heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Louis.
Louis with that left hook and a right that works. And he's got him in trouble. It's down to the canvas. 2, 3 is the count. 4, 5. Agramonte on his knees. 6, 7, 8. His eyes look all right. 9. Agramonte doesn't show too much signs of wear, but we'll see what that Brown Farmer can do in the follow-up. Another IBC scrap, and this sure promises to be a good one.
Joe showed flashes of his old brilliance in this round, but the fight then became boring. The pace was pedestrian and nothing much happened. The crowd let both fighters know that they didn't appreciate the fight. Joe got the decision, but it was another subpar performance from the old man.
A low blow by Savold, and the referee warns him to keep him up.
One thing that always stood out about Joe was his toughness. He never complained about low blows, no matter how hard they landed. In this fight, he took a brutal one and just got on with it. Even at this stage of his career, Joe's power remained impressive. The last thing a fighter loses is their power, and Joe proved that here, delivering with both hands.
But Lewis hasn't been punching in combinations very much. He seems to be satisfied to use his left jab or counter with a single punch. The old Lewis used to come in with both hands flying, punching in combinations very fast till his man came down.
A routine decision win over Bryan came next.
And the crowd is roaring. But the bell ends the fight. Joe Louis, the winner by unanimous decision.
Joe got the victory, but it was an uninspired fight overall. It felt like he was simply going through the motions. In the final fight of his career, Joe faced the reigning champion, Rocky Marciano.
End of round one. It's a good Marciano round.
From the opening bell, it was obvious that Joe couldn't avoid Marciano's right hands.
Work on the head and body. Rocky gets in a solid winging right to the head. You can see that Louis feels those punches. Remember, Louis is the slight favorite tonight. Win or lose, he collects $94,000, a big hunk of which goes to Uncle Sam for back taxes. Marciano gets $50,000.
Joe managed to find some success here and there, but he was clearly a shell of himself.
Rocky pushes Louis away. He's looking for an opening for that right-hand bomb of his. Louis, too, has always been a hard right-hand hitter. Louis pawing with his left. He wants to keep this Marciano away from him. He wants to move in, to stalk. Louis, you remember, was always the master stalker. Now, here he is, being pressured himself.
His reflexes were gone, and his once brilliant combination punching was nowhere to be found.
A winging right by Marciano misses the target. But as Louis picks out his jab, you see him catch a right, then a left.
By this point, Joe was far more diminished than most people seem to realize. This fight doesn't hold much weight when evaluating his legacy.
The Louis we're seeing tonight has but a faint resemblance to the great Brown Bomber, who ruled the heavyweight roost for nearly 12 years.
As it stands, Joe was a shadow of his former greatness.
Marciano's hard left hook sends Louis sprawling to the canvas.
Joe was the perfect boxer puncher, effortlessly blending power with precision. He loved sitting back to counter when the opportunity arose, but most opponents were too cautious for that. This often forced him to take on the role of the aggressor, stalking his prey with an exceptional jab and precise angled footwork. His ability to shift and adjust kept opponents on edge, and his punches carried so much power that most fighters found themselves retreating after just one or two combinations. Speaking of combinations, Joe's were something else. Unbelievably precise, perfectly structured, and packed with torque. Each punch was short, efficient, and devastating. His right hand in particular was a thing of beauty. It cut through guards like a wrecking ball, leaving chaos in its wake. From what's evident in his fights, Joe had incredible punch selection, reliable defense, and unmatched timing and accuracy. His fundamentals at heavyweight were as close to flawless as it gets. One of his most impressive traits was his adaptability. Between fights, he could make adjustments that left no doubt about his dominance in rematches, a clear sign of his brilliant ring IQ.